The night after Ira returned to the settlement, the hum of the mountains never stopped. It echoed through the air like a distant song, vibrating in her bones, a constant reminder of the ancient secrets she had uncovered. She couldn't sleep, her mind racing with the visions of the temple, the glowing stone, and the voice that had called to her. What had she unlocked? What had she awakened? The settlers had no idea what Ira had done. They went about their lives as usual, tending to their crops, speaking of future trade with passing ships, and exchanging idle chatter. But Ira felt the weight of something shifting in the air, something that had been dormant for centuries, perhaps longer. At dawn, she stood at the edge of the colony looking toward the mountains. They seemed unchanged, but Ira knew better. There was something inside them now, stirring. It wasn't long before the first signs of trouble began to show. The land around the settlement started to change. The glowing plants, which had once swayed gently in the breeze, began to grow wild, twisting and curling like tendrils reaching toward the sky. The animals that roamed the fields, peaceful creatures that had never posed a threat, became restless, moving in erratic patterns. The air felt charged, and the sky, once a soft violet, began to shift into an unsettling crimson hue. The moons, too, seemed to pulse, glowing brighter than they had ever before. The settlers took notice, and worry began to spread. Ira, an elder named Darvik, said one morning as she walked through the village. His voice trembled with both curiosity and fear. "What have you done?" Ira swallowed hard, her heart heavy with the knowledge she couldn't explain. "I touched the stone. I heard the mountains speaking." Darvik's face paled. "You shouldn't have gone there. The mountains are not just a place, child. They are a prison. A prison for the forgotten ones." Ira frowned. "The forgotten ones?" Darvik nodded gravely. "The mountains hold the last remnants of a civilization older than any we've known. The ones who built those ruins were not like us. They were beings of power, beings who sought to master the stars. But their arrogance led them to destroy themselves. The mountains keep their spirits, their memories locked away, so that the cycle of their destruction does not repeat." "Then why didn't you tell us?" Ira demanded, her voice rising. "Why didn't anyone warn me?" "Because the mountains are meant to be left alone," Darvik said. "The moment you disturbed them, you brought them back. And now, they are stirring." Before Ira could ask more questions, a shrill cry echoed from the hills. The settlers turned, their faces filled with fear as something emerged from the mist. It was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen, tall, with shimmering skin like liquid metal, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. It stepped forward, and with it came more, dozens, hundreds, beings who had been hidden away for millennia. The forgotten ones. They were not mere ghosts as the settlers had once feared. No, they were living beings, though no longer entirely alive in the way the settlers knew. They were the remnants of a race that had once ruled the stars, their bodies now more energy than flesh, their forms shifting and unnatural, like shadows given shape. As they advanced on the settlement, the ground beneath their feet cracked and trembled, and the very air hummed with energy. The forgotten ones did not speak in words. Instead, they communicated in flashes of bright light and deep, resonant sounds that seemed to resonate with the core of the planet itself. Ira stood frozen, her mind racing. These beings, these ancient entities, were not here to help. They had come because of her, a consequence of her curiosity, her defiance of the ancient warning. And now the colony was paying the price. "Stay back," Darvik ordered, pulling out an old, rusted weapon. It was a tool from the early days of the colony, designed to defend against wild animals, not creatures from ancient history. The weapon flickered weakly in his hand. "There's no time for that," Ira said, suddenly coming to a decision. "I need to go back. I have to make things right." Without waiting for Darvik's response, she turned and ran toward the mountains, the very place that had once felt so dangerous now seeming like her only hope. Behind her, she could hear the screams of the settlers, the sound of buildings collapsing, and the eerie hum of the forgotten ones. The journey back to the temple was different this time. The air was heavier, the ground beneath her feet shaking with every step. The glowing plants that had once been so serene now seemed to reach out, as if they too were being drawn toward the mountains. When she reached the summit once more, the temple had changed. The ruins that had once been merely crumbling stones now pulsed with light, the strange symbols on the walls shifting and dancing as if alive. The stone she had touched before was no longer there. Instead, a massive rift had opened in the center of the temple, glowing with an intense white light. Ira didn't hesitate. She knew what she had to do. She stepped forward into the rift. The moment she crossed the threshold, she was surrounded by a flood of images, flashes of a forgotten time, visions of an alien civilization that had reached too far into the stars, their arrogance leading them to a cataclysmic fall. She saw their rulers, beings of unimaginable power, bending the very fabric of space and time. And she saw the mountains, their true purpose now clear. They were not just a tomb but a prison, built to contain the remnants of a once great race. The voice from before returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't a warning. It was a plea. Release us. And the cycle. The universe is dying and only we can save it. Ira's heart pounded in her chest. The decision was in her hands. She could free the Forgotten Ones, but in doing so, she risked releasing the destructive force they had once been. A force capable of reshaping the galaxy itself. But she didn't have a choice. The colony depended on her. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could guide them to redemption instead of destruction. With one final breath, Ira pressed her hands against the rift, channeling all the energy within her. The mountains trembled violently, and the very sky seemed to crack open. The light blazed brighter than ever before, and then, everything went still. When Ira opened her eyes, she was no longer in the temple. She was standing back in the colony, the mountains far behind her, now dark and silent. The Forgotten Ones were gone, their presence erased from the land. The world around her was quiet, peaceful, as if nothing had ever happened. But deep within her, Ira knew that the story of the Forgotten Ones was far from over. The universe was vast, and its secrets were endless. And somewhere out there, the mountains of Thalamar still hummed, waiting for the next curious soul to awaken them.
Hey there! If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our exciting adventures.